has accepted that it's not going well, and he sort of needs to readjust in some way, shape, or form.
I don't think Mr. Putin needs many signs that it hasn't been going well for him in Ukraine. I mean, here we are, day 46, and again, you know, he failed to achieve so many of his geographic and strategic objectives inside Ukraine. So they're repositioning, they're refocusing on the Donbas. I'll let them speak to their personnel announcements, but it wouldn't surprise anybody that they're trying to organize themselves better for a now more geographically confined and more specific set of target objectives now in the Donbas specifically and in the south. What I would just hasten to offer is that the Ukrainians have been for 8 years and still are fighting over that. That's still part of Ukraine, and they show no signs of being willing to give that territory up, nor should they. So we'll have to see, you know, how this plays out. But whatever the Russian plans are, whatever their goals for this new commander are, they're still going to have to reckon with a very stiff, very effective, very capable, and quite frankly, I've used this word before, but very nimble Ukrainian defense. Let me go to the phones just a little bit, and we'll just keep working around. Barbara, I think you're online today.
Yeah, hi. I do want to follow up on the general, if I may. He's obviously there is someone known to the U.S. military from his operations in Syria and in the destruction of Aleppo. What can you tell people, if anything at all, about his track record in having a disregard for civilian casualties? And then I wanted to follow up on the next round of security assistance, if I may.
Look, I'm not going to detail his biographic details or his or pretend to think that we know perfectly how this particular general intends to lead. I would say this: he and other senior Russian leaders have shown in the past, and you mentioned Syria as one example, have shown clearly in the past their disregard for avoiding civilian harm, their utter disregard in many ways for the laws of war, laws of armed conflict, and the brutality with which they conduct and prosecute their operations. There's a track record here before Ukraine of Russian brutality, and you've seen it on display every single day of the last 46 days, the brutality that the Russians are capable of. We're seeing it today. As you and I are talking here, you can see it today. So I think, sadly, we can all expect that those same brutal tactics, that same disregard for civilian life and civilian infrastructure will probably continue as they now focus in a more geographically confined area in the Donbas. You heard the chairman talk about this at testimony last week, that it was his assessment, and we believe he's right, that this could augur in for a more protracted and a very bloody next phase here of this conflict. And I don't know, and wouldn't pretend to say that we know for certain that this new general is going to be the author of some new additional and more bloody tactics, but we can certainly say by what we've seen in the past that we're probably turning another page in the same book of Russian brutality. And again, I'll say it. I know you get tired of me saying it, but I'll say it again. This war could end today. Mr. Putin could do the right thing now. He could sit down in good faith with President Zelensky immediately, and this war could end. He had diplomatic options on the table. He chose to ignore them, and here we are, day 46. He has not achieved the strategic objectives that he wanted to achieve. This is the perfect opportunity for him to negotiate in good faith with President Zelensky and end the war. Courtney.
Security assistance, if I may. As you shift into the south and the east, as Ukraine shifts into the south and the east in newer heavy rounded combat, and you look at security assistance, what's your best thought, the U.S.'s best thoughts about how to get artillery, armor, long-range air defense, all the things that you've said they need for that arena to them when they do not have U.S. versions in their current inventory and they need things quickly that they can take advantage of and use? Can you help people understand the next round of security assistance?
Well, we are working very, very hard every single day to continue to get security assistance to the Ukrainians. I mean, 8 to 10 flights a day are coming into the region, not just from the United States, but from other nations as well. That stuff isn't sitting around, Barbara. It gets to these transshipment sites. They're put onto trucks and they're moved into Ukraine very, very quickly. In some cases, stuff coming from the United States takes no more than 4 to 6 days from the time the president authorizes drawdown authority to it gets into the hands of the Ukrainians. That's an incredible rate of speed. And we aren't slowing down. Regardless of the Russian refocus on the Donbas, we're not slowing down. That stuff continues to move. It's going to continue to move. We said as much as we can, as fast as we can, and we made it. The reprioritization of the Russians on the east hasn't had an effect on our ability to help coordinate the delivery of massive amounts of security assistance from the United States and other nations into Ukraine. That flow still continues. Courtney.
Sorry, my question's been answered. If you hear me, my question's answered. Thanks.
Oh, thanks, Court. Go ahead, Sylvie.
You said that the fighting is continuing in Mariupol, but the pro-Russian troops in this region just said this morning that they took the port, and the Ukrainian army said that are still in Mariupol said that they don't have any more ammunitions. So is it your assessment that Mariupol is falling?
I told you how our assessment as of this morning was that the city was still being fought over. I don't have more up-to-date information than that, and nothing of what you just read out to me necessarily disputes our assessment this morning that it's still being fought over. Yeah.
I'm wondering about what we've seen, like in Bucha, with the possibility that the Russians have executed captives. I'm wondering if there's some concern that this could change international norms or put U.S. troops in some danger in the future, that some other nation may see Russia acting in this way, and that if U.S. troops are taken captive, that they may be treated in the same way. Is there any concern that Russia's actions could endanger U.S. troops in that way or change the international?
Look, I would just say that our expectations are that prisoners of war are going to be treated in accordance with the Geneva Conventions and the rule of law, period. And that's the way it needs to be. And we've been very open about that.
Has there been any developments in, has DoD been helping in any specific way now with the effort to kind of collect the data and look at what the Russians have actually done and maybe charge Russians in the future?
I would just say in general, because we're not going to talk about everything specifically that we're doing as part of the interagency effort here in the United States government, but in general, we'll pitch in and do our part to try to help with the collection of evidence of war crimes being conducted for use in investigative procedures going forward. I mean, we're focused on doing what we can to help document that. It's also fairly transparent for the world to see the brutality and the war crimes that Russian forces are conducting.
Can you say at all like what the DoD has done in any example or anything like satellite imagery or anything like that?
No, I'm not going to get into that. I mean, but we are helping collect the evidence and document things. Some of that will be through open source imagery as well, but I won't go into more detail than that. Yeah.
Today, China's foreign ministry confirmed that it had sent a large supply of military supplies into Serbia over the weekend. They didn't detail exactly what were in the shipments, but that there was multiple shipments, and that they also claimed that China is claiming that it had nothing to do with the current situation on the ground in Ukraine. Is that also the U.S. assessment? Is there any fear of what China might be doing here?
We can't confirm those reports. I've seen the press reports, but we're not in a position to confirm the idea that China might be sending systems into Serbia. So it'd be difficult, since I can't confirm it, for me to speculate as to what the purpose might be.
They confirmed it. The Chinese admitted that they were the ones that sent it. I'm just curious, though, is there any concern with them sending weapons into Serbia?
Look, I mean, we would certainly not want to see anything flow in that could be an advantage to the Russians. Okay. Mike.
Yeah, is there still confidence, we'll go back to the India thing, is there still confidence that India can remain a defense partner in the Indo-Pacific region when their actions in regard to Russia and the invasion of Ukraine are so at odds with much of the rest of the world?
Look, I think I said it right at the top, and you'll hear it later this afternoon. We have a strong defense partnership with India, and we are going to continue to look for ways to deepen that defense partnership. India is an important partner in the region, in the Indo-Pacific region, and we're gonna continue to look for ways to improve that partnership. India should be able to speak for their own national policies with respect to what's going on in Russia and Ukraine. We've been very honest about where we are on this, the actions we're taking and the things that we're doing. But the other things that we're doing are looking for ways to make sure we deepen that partnership with India. David.
How would a Chinese military shipment to Serbia help the Russians?
I'm not saying that it would, David. I'm not confirming it. I'm just saying that if that's the intent, if it's some sort of potential option of getting assistance to Russia, obviously, we would not consider that helpful. But I'm not confirming that it happened, and I'm not, and as I said before, I'm not confirming what their intent is.
Have you seen any evidence that China has provided any support, any military support for Russia and Ukraine?
No. Let's see, Jeff Schogel.
Thank you. The Defense Department says it has shipped hundreds of Switchblade drones to Ukraine. Is it possible to get a rough number, 200, 300?
Leave it at hundreds, Jeff.
How many hundreds?
It says hundreds have been committed. That doesn't necessarily mean hundreds have been shipped. We know that 100 have been shipped, and they are in the region. Heather from USNI.
Thank you so much. So I know that you said that the senior defense official earlier said there was no maritime updates, but I was wondering if you have any information about the dozens of naval ships in the Black Sea, and if there's any anti-mining activities going on near Odessa.
I don't know of any anti-mining activities near Odessa. We know that that there have been mines in the waters off Odessa. But I'm not sure of any anti-mining efforts. I think you're probably talking about Russian mine sweeping, and I can't read out Russian naval activity with any great level of specificity. They still have roughly a couple of dozen or so ships in the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov. We think a large part of their focus is replenishment and resupply. Again, that follows suit to what we've been talking about coming out of the north, this yet another convoy. But we also think that from the south, they want to use some of their naval vessels to help resupply and restock their forces in the south, to the south of the Donbas. Yes?
Sorry if I missed this. Is there any attribution on the strike in Syria the other day?
No, not yet.
Is that something that you expect to have at some point?
I think at some point we'll probably be able to get into more detail on that, Gordon, but we're still working with our Iraqi partners on that. No specific attribution. I mean, these things are of a piece, though, of the kinds of activities we've seen out of militia groups in the past, militia groups that are backed by Iran, but I don't want to get ahead of where the investigation is. Mike.
Hey, can you confirm the journal's report that the USAR commander is going to be the next SACEUR in NATO?
I have no personnel announcements to speak to or decisions to speak to today. Okay, thanks, everybody.